Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about what I call the gold problem in the Race to World First. And basically what I've got here is a spreadsheet with 3 different sheets in it. I've got the what, the why, and the how. On this what sheet, we've got basically the totals for what you might assume a guild to spend during the Race to World First, depending on whether it's a 1-week race or a 2-week race. And I'll talk about these in a second. On this Y sheet, we've got the prices for things. I've got some conditions for how people use consumables. I've got some PvP pricing across different boosting services. And I'll talk about this sheet in more detail as well. And then on this sheet, we've got the how. This is basically how do these guilds get this insane amount of gold that they're going to spend during the Race to World First, right? And here's just a list of stuff that I want to talk about once we get to this point in the video. So to start things off, let's take a look at the why or the what sheet. So assuming a 1-week race, basically what we're going to do here is, let's say that the reset that the mythic boss, the mythic raid opens, so that Tuesday, if the boss dies before the next Tuesday, assuming you're in NA, if you're in Europe it's going to be on a Wednesday, if the boss dies, the final boss in the raid dies before the next reset, that's a 1-week race. So that's how I'm qualifying that. And then a 2-week race would be Mythic opens, the boss doesn't die by the next reset, you get an entire new reset, and then after that one, the boss dies, right? So looking at the 1-week race, let's go through and talk about some of these numbers. So you can expect for a roster size of 25, this is going to be probably a little less than most guilds at the top end. My guild runs, I think we're at 27 or 28 players right now. But that number is going to change based on recruitment and needs and things like that. And every guild is going to be a little bit different. But I think that 25 is a more conservative estimate for how many players you can expect to have in a World First guild that are going to be involved in the race. So we'll go with 25 players. Each player is going to spend, on average, about 360,000 gold for consumables over the course of the week. So we're assuming, if we go to the Y page, we're assuming that you're raiding 12 hours every single day. This is going to change again depending on what your guild is doing, right? So some guilds will raid more than this. Some players are going to be off doing other things instead of raiding during some of this time, so they're not going to be using some consumables that other players are going to be using, things like that. But I'm just going to assume that everybody's raiding for 12 hours straight every day. I'm assuming everyone's an alchemist. This means that you can use half as many flasks, right? Because your flask, if you're an alchemist, even if you only have alchemy level 1, your flask is going to last 2 hours instead of 1 hour. Then I'm assuming that every pull takes 5 minutes, so I've split the 12 hours into 5-minute pulls. And I'm assuming there's no wait time between the pulls, things like that. This number, again, is going to be different depending on what boss you're on, how hard it is, things like that. So like Sylvanas pulls were not 5 minutes per pull, especially near the end of progression. But I think this is a fair number to use throughout the average of prog. And then we're going to assume 1 pot per pull. And that means 1 spiritual healing potion and 1 combat potion, and I'm just going to assume that everybody's using phantom fires and everybody's using spiritual healing potions. And again, you're only going to use one of these and one of the phantom fires as well. So on average, every player is going to use 6 armor kits per day, 144 augment runes per day, 144 health pots, 144 combat pots. You use an augment rune for every pull, and then 1 health pot, 1 combat pot. There's 144 pulls in 12 hours. And then you're going to use 12 Shadow Core oils because they last an hour each. And if you take the prices that I have up here from my, these are from my server, then you're going to get about 51,438 gold per day per player. And then we multiply that set by 7 to get this number, which is the 360,000 gold that you're going to spend on consumables per player over the course of a 1-week race. Okay, so then that'll run you about 9 million gold total by the end of the race for just consumables. And that is, if you convert that with the token price. So a token right now is 204,825 gold. If you convert that to US dollars, it's about $660. Okay, so then let's look at the PvP section. For a 1 week race in particular, this is going to be pretty important. You have Heroic Week, where you're going to be doing as much stuff as you can to get all 9 Great Vault options, and that includes PvP. And I'm going to assume that because your guild is full of really, really high-end Mythic Raiders, that most of them don't have the time to do PvP. Now, there are exceptions to this. For example, Limit, Complexity Limit, has players on their team who are multiple tournament champions in PvP, super, super good, and those players are going to bring this price down, right? Because instead of having to pay for a boost through one of these services for every player, you could potentially have those in-house players help with those PvP carries. I know, for example, Trill on Limit helps with their carries like crazy. So they will still spend money on PvP for sure. They're not going to make Trill do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of PvP games for free. I know that they reimburse him, so it will make this number go down at least, because they'll probably pay him less than they would pay one of these boosting services that has to take a service cut, an advertiser cut, all these different cuts that inflate the price, right? So this number will go down depending on. Also, if you just have good PvPers in your guild, like even if they're not carrying everybody, if you're not spending gold to carry everybody, but you're just having them do PvP on their own, and they can manage getting to 2100 and also getting the 6,250 honor required for the Great Vault options, then maybe you could put a 0 in some of these if those players can manage to do that on their own. But I'm just going to assume that nobody can do that in your guild. Everybody's going to have to pay for a boost, and I'm also assuming that the boost is going to go from 0 to 2100. So the way I got these numbers for this PvP section is I just in here went to these 3 different discords. So the Starlight boosting service, Huokan boosting service, and Weekly Disappointment. And I take a look at their PvP pricing, and then I got an average for what it might cost with those 3 different services. So right now, at the time of making this video, if you want to buy 2100 from 0, it's going to cost you 3.5 million gold from Starlight, and then 3.2 million gold from Huokan or from Weekly Disappointment. And this is per character, by the way. So I'm assuming that in this 1 week race, every player only has 1 character that they're going to want to get fully geared. This could vary drastically, right? So me personally, for this upcoming race, I have 3 different Shadow Priests that I'm going to be working on getting as geared as possible. And when the race comes around, it depending on the luck that I get on different Shadow Priests, I may have just 1 that I want to do all the PvP on. I may have 2 that I want to do all the PvP on. So this number could change per player depending on how many characters they're willing to get fully geared or full Great Vault options, right? So I just went with one character per player, and I ran it at the cheapest boosting price currently, which is 3.2 million gold. So if you're going to have every single player in your guild do one of those boosts to 2100, it's going to run you 80 million gold, 80.4 million gold. And again, this number would probably go down if your guild talked to the owners of the boosting service and got like a bulk discount or something. Those things definitely exist, and you could definitely bring this number down from 80 million to something a bit lower. And in these higher guilds, a lot of the time, people who are in these guilds may even work in some of these boosting services, and they can potentially get you deals and things like that, right? So this 80 million gold, this number is probably not super accurate because, first, like I said, not every person is only going to have 1 character. Not every person is even going to need any PvP boosts, and some people are going to have multiple characters, right? So that's going to throw in a lot of volatility to this number. And then secondly, like I said, the rate that you get these PvP boosts is probably not going to be this number. It's not going to be the average default rate that they give every single person. If your guild comes to a boosting service and says, hey, I've got 100 million gold I'm willing to spend on PvP boosts, what can you get me? The boosting service is likely to not turn down 100 million gold, right? So they'll probably work with you to get a better deal. But if we just go with the basic, no deals, everyone uses one character, it's going to cost you 80 million gold, which is approximately 6,000 US dollars. And then next, we'll take a look at BOEs. The number I used here for BOEs is, again, this is going to be a very volatile market. In my guild, right now, we're planning on somewhere around 4 to 6 million gold per person for BOEs. So I used just 3 million because not every person is going to use all of the gold that you set aside for BOEs. Some people, BOEs, like this tier, for example, Shadow Priests and Cloth Wearers in general, didn't have very good BOEs from the raid. So maybe some people aren't going to use this BOE gold at all, and some people are going to use a lot of it, right? Maybe somebody buys like 2 really, really good BOEs that are very in very high demand, so the price goes up by quite a lot. So again, this number is not going to be super, super accurate. This is just an average for what you might plan on going into the race. And this includes the price of the BOE, the price that it's going to cost to transfer a character to a different realm if the BOE is on a different realm, and then transfer back. All of that is involved in this. And so I'm going to assume that everybody is going to spend approximately 3 million gold on BOEs over the course of the race, and that'll run you 75 million gold total, which is just about 5,500 US dollars. So over the course of a 1-week race, you can expect a guild going for World First to spend anywhere between 150 million to 200 million, maybe even a little bit more gold. I put 164,400,000 gold, right? So that is approximately 12,000 US dollars. So that's quite the ticket, right? Pretty expensive, and that's in the shortest possible scenario. So potentially the race lasts a little bit longer. The most recent race to World First in the Sanctum of Domination, the race almost went 2 resets. It managed to end in 1 reset because Echo killed the boss on the last day. But if they hadn't killed the boss, it would have gone into the next reset. Although it wouldn't have turned into a full-blown 2-week race because Limit was about to kill the boss. And if they had 1 more reset of gear, they likely would have gone in and stomped the boss anyway. And it would have died, within hours of the next reset. So now let's take a look at a 2-week race and what it might cost. Basically, what I did here is same thing. Consumables, I just doubled this number because it's just twice as long, right? This is assuming that the prices aren't changing at all, any of that. So for consumables, over the course of a 2-week race, you can assume that you're going to spend approximately 18 million gold, which is about 1.3 thousand US dollars. And then for PvP, this number has jumped quite a bit. This is not double the PvP from the last one. This is significantly more because I'm assuming that, and this number is also going to be pretty inaccurate and depend a lot on different things, but I'm assuming that your character is now at the 2100 level, and then you need to buy enough boosts, enough wins at 2100 that you get 6,250 honor for the Great Vault options. So if we go over here, you can see it's 200 honor for the first win of the day, and then 150 honor for every win after. I'm assuming that you're going to do the first win of the day all 7 days, so that's 1,400 honor, and then the rest is going to be at 150 honor per win. It takes about 40 wins to get 6,350 honor, so you're going to be 100 honor over. But it'll take you 40 wins, and 40 wins at this cost from Huokan, which is a single win in the 2,100 to 2,400 bracket, which is 148k gold. 40 wins will cost you almost 6 million gold. It'll be 5,920,000. So I added that number to the original 3 million boost to get to 2,100, because you'll be doing that in the first week still anyway. And that's how I got this 9 million gold number. So again, this number is going to change a lot. So if you over the course of getting to 2100, especially if you're a raider in a world first guild like this, you're likely going to pick up some PvP skills, and potentially you won't have to buy your wins once you get to the top, or once you get to 2100. And also, you know, again, you could have people in your guild who are already good at PvP or are super gods at PvP, like Trill, and can help carry people. And you might get bulk discounts and things like that from the boosting services. But I just went and said, if you were an average Joe, you know, who was in a Race World First guild that had no connections to anybody or anything like that, and you were just wanting to spend gold, then you would end up spending about 9,136,000 gold on PvP over the course of 2 weeks for a 2-week race. And if you times that by the 25 different players in the guild, you're going to end up at 228 million gold. So that is quite a lot of gold. If you convert that with the token, it's 16.8 thousand US dollars. So we're starting to get, I mean, just PvP alone in a 2-week race is more than the entire cost of a 1-week race. So, I mean, you're starting to get some pretty hefty numbers over here. And then, again, with BOEs, we're just going to do the same thing. Assume 3 million per person, and then assume that more BOEs dropped during the second reset that they could go buy. So I'm just going to multiply it by 2. So instead of 75 million, it's 150 million, which would run you about 11,000 US dollars. In total, the first 1-week race will cost you about 164 million gold, which is about $12,000. And then the 2-week race might cost your guild about 396 million gold, which is about $29,000. So this is a crap ton of gold, right? This is like, most people are never going to have anywhere near this amount of gold. Even this 9 million gold figure, most people will never see that much gold in their whole time playing World of Warcraft, right? So these are very, very expensive. It's quite the ordeal to try and fund a Race to World First attempt, right? So we can go over the why real quick again, but I think I covered most of this, right? So you've got like the prices for different things based on my server, and then these are the numbers for how many you're going to use per player, per day, per week. This is the consumable use stuff. So we may ask ourselves, how do these guilds make, you know, $12,000 worth of gold or $29,000 worth of gold that they can just spend on a race like this, right? So let's go over here and talk about some of the ways that they might get gold. Well, first off, very first and foremost, this is probably the most straightforward, makes sense answer. They could just buy the tokens, right? So let's assume that you're, you know, super, super rich. Let's assume real money was not a problem. You could just buy at a rate of $15 for 204,000 gold. You could just, you know, go up and spend $29,000, and then you'd have all the gold you need, right? You'd have to like split it across different bank characters and guild banks and things like that, right? But you could just straight up buy $29,000 worth of gold from Blizzard, and I'm sure they would love you for that, actually. So that's an option, although that's not what any guild that I know of does. Perhaps people do spend real money to buy some tokens, but as far as I know, every guild does in-game stuff that they can do to get gold that way. So the next thing would be, you can do sales, right? You can do boosts, so raid boosts, Mythic Plus boosts. In the case of Trill with Limit, you could even do PvP boosts, right? And make gold that way. So you could do individual boosts where raiders from your team go boost with boosting services and do like in-house boosts and things like that. Or if you partner with a boosting service, they'll often find mythic buyers for your guild who can come to your main raid nights, and you can do it as a full raid. So in my guild, for instance, we usually have buyers on Tuesdays and Wednesdays when we're raiding, and I just show up to the regular raid like normal, and then the buyer is there with us, and I get a cut of the gold that's coming to my guild for that buyer being there, right? So the individual raiders in the guild don't even have to do anything outside of main raid. as long as you're getting, buyers into your full raid. But that is an option to make gold. You could have individuals going out and doing these boosts. Something I forgot to put in here is advertising. Boosting communities are always looking for advertisers to try and get more buyers into their service, right? So they pay people to advertise for them in gold, and you could potentially become an advertiser for one of those services and make gold depending on how well you can advertise, right? The next thing we can look at is just taking loans. There are some individuals in this game who have hundreds and hundreds of millions of gold. There are people out there who just have $29,000 worth of gold, right? There are people who just are hoarding gold like crazy. That's how they like to play the game. They just like to make money in game. And you could find those people and you could potentially take loans from them. I know, for instance, Limit and Echo have both taken loans in the past. And usually, if you're going to take a loan, they're going to want you to pay it back and then some, right? So in the long term, taking loans, especially big loans for a Race to World First guild, it's probably not the best idea. Because even if you assume that you're going to take let's say you take a 100 million gold loan at 10%, then when you pay it back, you're going to be paying back 110 million gold, right? That's 10 million gold that you could have saved for your next Race to World First, right? So taking loans is probably not the best option, although it is an option, right? And then the last one is you can just straight up make gold through regular gold making means, right? So whether that's playing the auction house the same way everybody else does, whether that's gathering materials the same way everybody else does, all that stuff. You have to remember that your guild is at least, in the case of this guild, it's at least 25 different players. So all 25 of those players can be doing stuff on their own to make gold, right? And your guild is going to benefit from all the gold that all these players have, even if it's indirect, even if they're not going to give it all to the guild, right? They're going to buy stuff on their own that's going to save you as a guild money that you're not going to have to put into them, right? So remember that that's the case. And then also remember that guilds can have up to 1,000 characters in them, something like that. So just the raid team is not going to be the whole guild. There are going to be people in your guild who, for instance, when I was in Temerity, there were some people in the guild who didn't ever raid with us. All they did was go out and farm stuff and then put stuff in the G-Bank. And their only price that they were asking was that they would get the mythic mount when the time comes at the end of the tier. Because they're just people who like grinding. They like going out and farming materials and doing stuff like that. And they have a deal with the guild where at the end of the tier, before the next tier starts, we bring them into one of the mythic raids and they kill the last boss and we give them the mount, right? That's the trade. So there are potentially people like that who would be in these high-end guilds who would be there to help assist with this gold kind of thing, right? So that's some of the how. That is in itself the entire gold problem at the Race to World First level. There are other things that I am sure I missed or I didn't mention, like with the new tier sets coming out, potentially you might have to pay specific people to join your cloth raid, right? And funnel tier sets to people. So maybe somebody goes and does heroic the first week and they loot one of the tier set pieces. You can bring them in the next week and pay them so that if they get another tier set piece, they can trade it to you instead, right? So there are like funnels that you could pay for. There's a lot of other things. There's repairs. I didn't even talk about repairs at all that you have to pay for, stuff like that. But these are some general ideas. Hopefully this video gave you an idea of the amount of gold and money that goes into the Race to World First. If you liked the video, make sure you click the like button. If you really liked it, feel free to subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!